Hey there gamers, good to see ya. It's Shep here from Gaming Introspection. So, simple question for all of you fine gamers out there. What happens next with the now quarter-century old... My god, am I old!
Super Smash Bros. Series, the beloved crossover fighter that started out on the N64 with anatomically incorrect and sometimes even horrifying polygonal monstrosities that stuck firmly in Nintendo's own worlds, before becoming an absolutely colossal monument to video game history, where even Street Fighter, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts are represented. The disparity between the original and the most recent entry is ridiculous, and ironically, the next game in the series seems like it has to decide whether to revert closer to its first incarnation or stuff itself even more than the last. It either needs to trim down its roster and revamp its veteran cast with new moves while adding some well thought out new additions, or go all out with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Complete XD Gale of Darkness 9 Houses Rebirth Fantasy!
Kidding, obviously. What I meant to say was Smash Ultimate, just with a few more DLC characters, stages, and smoothed over graphics.
If we were to actually believe that legendary developer Mashahiro Sakurai will not step out of retirement to direct the next game, the second of those two definitely seems like the most viable option, right? With the Switch 2 inevitably close to release, as of this video, speculation points it at the first half of 2025. Nintendo wants to have a Smash game ready by 2026 at the latest. Melee came out nearly in sync with the GameCube's late 2001 launch, Brawl and Smash 4 were out within 2 years after the Wii and Wii U, and Ultimate was released only a year and a half after the Switch's 2017 release. So that part is pretty much set in stone. We can square away the release date pretty easily.
But can we predict the composition of the next Smash Bros. With as much confidence? Let's take a look at the two most likely scenarios for the Switch successor's Super Smash Bros. Entry, and discuss the pros and cons of each. And hey, please like and subscribe if this gives you some food for thought. Thank you so much. Smash games are rare occurrences, releasing only once a generation, unless you count the 3DS Wii U hybrid launch. And it's simply grown in the way that all numbered sequels do in other franchises that aren't fighting games.
More characters, stages, items, and a bigger game with more to experience. It's been fairly consistent that way. But Ultimate was, well, it kinda broke every measurement when it comes to how much stuff a Smash game can have in it. When you count almost completely cloned Echo Fighters and palette swap characters, you've got literally over 100 combatants to choose from. In the original, we had 12, and while that's insultingly small by today's standards, it made it easy for different players to attach themselves to a favorite or two, and really learn their movesets. By rebooting the game with a smaller roster, you can better focus on strengths and weaknesses, and can game plan against more opponents effectively. Donkey Kong may not be able to keep up to Pikachu in any aspect, especially without a projectile, but someone like Link may have a better chance at interrupting the flow with his many long-range tools. It would also give new additions a better chance to gain some recognition, having more of the spotlight.
Imagine if Nintendo just went off the wall and debuted a character in Smash that doesn't even have his or her own series yet. That would be an amazing reversal. It would be risky for sure, but it would help the character stand out, especially if the roster was smaller.
Another big benefit to rebooting the series is the chance for Nintendo to lessen its legal and copyright headaches and costs by scaling it down to mostly Nintendo-centric characters. By ixnaying all the Clouds and Jokers of the world, you give yourself more financial freedom. At least at the outset. I'm sure adding those fan favorites as DLC would more than make the money back, but you can't always count on those characters' owners being just as willing as they were before. Once you're forced to cut one fighter because of a bad negotiation or whatever, the fan base will rage, as the internet likes to do. This example wasn't due to negotiating rights, but remember when Mewtwo was cut from Brawl? Outcry was so loud! Nintendo made it a point to assure players he'd be an early DLC character for Smash 4. Now, despite the need to shed most of the third-party crew, I'm not suggesting going back to the paltry dozen fighters of the original. I'm of the mind that a melee-sized lineup of about 25 brawlers for the base game would be a great starting point if you were to do it this way. And amongst those, you'd keep the core ones. So goodbye, Dr. Mario! Go away, Daisy! Stick to the sunshine, Bowser Jr.! Stay in your own universe, Toon and Young Link. And most Pokemon that aren't iconic can just be chucked.
And Fire Emblem, just stop. Please, for the love of God, stop. Have a cup of tea or something and plan out strategies for war, but just give Smash a rest. Please.
I'd also exclude characters that seem to just be almost universally panned, like Little Mac, and replace him with someone else, anyone else. His air game is next to useless, and he dies almost as easily as Link in the original Smash Brothers.
Let's go.
Okay, not quite that bad, but still pretty awful.
Instead, give the beloved veterans an updated look and an updated moveset when necessary. Like, is Flood relevant anymore? My god, I was in middle school when Mario Sunshine came out. I could care less, which means that no one in the younger demographic cares. Not many even know what it's from. And it's next to useless unless you're an extremely competitive vet. And why can't you at least hover with it to boost your recovery? That'd be a hell of a lot better than this pathetic triple jump of Mario's that hasn't been improved in a quarter century. It would have been something. Shock and amaze us with one of the crazy Mario Wonder powers instead. They were on the right track when they ditched Link's hookshot, rendering his grab much shorter, but giving him the Breath of the Wild bomb to compensate, which is amazing in projectile mix-ups. Now throw in that hang glider for his recovery. Keep going with these ideas. They let the King of Hyrule tease him with it all game in his home arena. You could update so many more characters too. Does Sonic really need 2 separate spin dashes with minor differences? Yes, I know in the metagame how much different spin dash and spin charge are, but for Joe Schmo out there, the differences are just not worth it. Keep one of them, and give him something completely different for movement, or fake out options with the other special move, like the double spring jump in Smash 4. By limiting the cast, they'd have ample time to specifically develop and tune each fighter on the roster. The 4th iteration debuted the previously mentioned alternate specials, which I thought was an awesome idea, but because the roster had already surpassed 50 characters, and you had to unlock every single one of the moves, this concept mostly just got lost in the shuffle. This could be a prime opportunity to bring that back, but in even more diverse ways. Make completely divergent movesets like they did for Palutena.
Heavenly Light, Explosive Flame, Warp, Rocket Jump, Reflect, Auto Reticle, Jump Glide, Counter, Super Speed, Angelic Missile, Celestial Fireworks, Lightweight.
Yeah, and other characters, like Mega Man. Make some moves
that suit both passive and aggressive playstyles. Make them fully customizable from the start. Mega Man's reflector shields were all unique in how they dealt damage and reflected, and tons of his projectiles and even recoveries were completely separate alternate specials. Imagine how the metagame could evolve without needing to saturate it with Echo Fighters. With a smaller focus, we could also see the return of trophies with actual information and detailed 3D models. I miss those. And I don't know about you, but I did not care about collecting all those spirits in World of Light. Yeah, there were tens of thousands of miscellaneous minutiae from gaming history, but just 2D stamps, and not even text or descriptions about who they are or what relevant abilities or histories are important to each of them. Give me quality over quantity, Nintendo!
Speaking of World of Light, did anyone unironically enjoy that experience?
when you went and collected spirits from all over the place, most of which you had no idea about where they came from or why you should care, and then you had all these meaningless dojos to level them up and exploration events to find useless prizes that you had to wait hours for? True enough, a few of the spirit battles genuinely made an attempt to recreate the video game character when it matches up just nice, like Metal Sonic, but then there's spirits like Dr. Krygor?
My name is Mike, come on, let's roll karaoke. Get up on the stage and sing.
Who the hell is this? Who's Mike? Is it this guy's first name? Who cares? We don't.
And even if you were a hardcore gaming history buff, as I said, you didn't even get to read any text or info about the spirits. Remember, this? You know, Sukapon from Joy Mech Fight. That's as famous as Mario, right? What? You haven't heard of Yakuman Player? Commander?
Still not ringing a bell? For the love of God, please tell me that you at least know who Frog and Snake is.
No, that's wrong. Frog and Snake, it's an old early 90s Game Boy Japanese exclusive role-playing game where you're a prince that can transform between human, frog, and snake form, whose title roughly translated is of course, the frog for whom the bell tolls. Ugh, this mode is so boring. You wander around powering up your fighters with these skill trees for no reason, which pretty much invalidated the point of forming spirit teams to buff you in the first place, and
yeah, not too many fans.
Single player is never going to be the selling point for Smash, but I know I've got some of you on my side when I say Nintendo should go back towards a Subspace Emissary type of story mode that includes a bunch of adrenaline pumping situations for Nintendo's cast to get invested in. Come on, seeing Peach and Zelda getting wooed by Solid Snake's heroic rescue and witnessing Captain Olimar and Captain Falcon teaming up for no apparent reason while Lucas goes on a Pokemon adventure to be the best there ever was. This is stuff that can only be done well with a diverse, compact roster that allows each character to shine.
Can you imagine trying to construct an epic storyline using a random set picked from our current bloated cast? Just throwing names out there.
Imagine a story beat with Diddy Kong, Steve, Sephiroth, and Pac-Man.
What the hell would that look like? It just wouldn't work.
You'd have like Steve praying at the altar and Sephiroth descending and stabbing him while Steve just stares into space unaffected, all because Sephiroth's sword isn't a square. And then Diddy Kong would make fun of the fearsome villain, throwing a banana at him, knocking him flat on his ass, and then Pac-Man enlarges and moves in to eat him. It would just be nonsense for the sake of nonsense.
But with a carefully crafted, hand-picked selection of mostly Nintendo characters, Nintendo has a great opportunity to make a fantastic single-player story mode once again.
Brawls was never anything special from a gameplay perspective. It was pretty much a button-mashing side-scroller against weird, never-before or again-seen enemies, and a forgettable final boss with an awful pun name. But the absolute absurdity of it. I'm talking Fox battling Rayquaza from Pokemon. The ridiculous swordsman crossover of Marth, Ike, and Meta Knight engaging that dark subspace army. Luigi's absolute uselessness. It was all so new, fresh, humorous, and charming. These were situations that never have or ever will occur again. And with so many fans of many different franchises, all the nods and references were bound to make everyone smile at some point during the story. There was even a bit of replay value depending on which fighters you chose during key plot events. Today, that fanbase has grown much larger, so there's more freedom to push this even further. You also would have enough established villains now that you could create a more convincing good guy versus bad guy conflict. Instead of this alternate world and made-up villain that most of the big bads are simply being ruled by, flooding with stock enemies, maybe King K. Rool, Bowser, Ganon, Mewtwo, and Ridley have combined their troops to create an evil army that they send out to many of the Nintendo worlds we know and love. It could be like Melee's adventure mode, but make the Koopas and Goombas into actual Smash characters with movesets, even if just for the single player experience. I mean, they've done it with Piranha Plant. There's plenty of good guy characters to team up across different environments and in specific combinations. Join Mario and Link together, finally, to do exploration in a Mushroom Kingdom Hyrule hybrid, where dimensions cross. Come on, they did it in Mario Kart! Make Sonic and Captain Falcon undertake a speed challenge that only they could do, with the Blue Falcon and Blue Blur needing to catch up to a bomb that's being transported via a hyperspeed track. Have Samus and Fox take to the skies and blow up evil minions in a crazy Star Fox style sequence before boarding the Dreadnought style ship and plunging into a Metroid labyrinthine world. I'm just spitballing here, but the possibilities for actualized, relevant fan service are just waiting to be utilized.
There is one big risk that any reboot will face, and that is fan alienation. Oh, Jesus!
Look at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's a whole other genre, I'm aware, but in the eyes of many traditional Final Fantasy VII fans, they have completely disregarded the remake series and flat out refused to acknowledge it. I'm sure that part of the reason Smash has been able to retain a large percentage of its fan base is because you could skip a game or two, but jump right into the next one and quickly remember all the moves and how to do them. Some professional players retain their mains from generation to generation simply because they're able to effectively use established tools from game to game. I don't think this is a huge deal. Pros are going to be pros and learn new strategies regardless, but it may turn off some of the less intense casual players who just wanted more of the same.
So, there you have the more ambitious approach to Smash Bros. Future. Now, let's discuss what the more likely option is.
We don't run on ideas, we run on money!
This just seems easy, right? And we all know how easy the big companies like to make things for themselves.
I mean, just slap some shiny textures and effects onto the 100+ stages and fighters, add some more costumes, balance out some of the characters, especially the last couple, like Sora and Kazuya a bit more, to account for the developing metagame, and include a new mode or two like break the targets or board the platforms, individualized for each character like the old school game.
Voila! You work on that for a few months, shove it out to the public, and then the biggest worry you have to face
is buying a large enough house to store those extra bills that are being delivered via a dump truck. One big reason this does work is, if Sakurai is indeed enjoying whatever he's working on now and has no intention of helming Smash again, you know you won't have anyone better to guide you, so just don't even bother. According to this Gamer.com article, Sakurai almost bailed as early as Brawl, and had that happened, Nintendo was planning on re-releasing Melee on the Wii, just with online battles added. Even the basic skeleton, I'm talking the physics engine, balance, in-game lore cameos, and special touches like the independent victory screens.
Kazuya Mishima wins.
All of it was done under Sakurai's watchful eye, so just preserve it and put it out in a form that's a bit smoother and prettier. Let's be honest, most of us would buy this again, just to have it on a new Nintendo console.
But backwards compatibility! Okay, that's fair. I'm sure there's a segment of you who would be just content to take this cartridge and put it in the new... cartridge? I can't even legitimately call it that, can I? Look at how small this is compared to our previous generations.
My god, if you misplace it or drop it, you may never see it again! And that could be dangerous if you've got babies or cats crawling around. Anyway, just put that microscopic microchip in the Switch 2, and it's there.
But that is when Nintendo plays its trump card.
DLC content!
Nintendo has gotten increasingly effective at building hype and developing spectacular, excitement-fervored trailers for promoting DLC. Like, we all remember Sephiroth insta-killing Galeem as he descends upon the battlefield, or Mario summoning Sora for one final celebration of Smash like the back of our hands. I can't imagine how amazing the new ones would look, especially since they could probably use the in-game graphic engine to show off the next batch. It was always exciting to see a challenger approaching style of cinematic, and they even did a pretty good job at keeping most newcomers under wraps until release. It's a pet peeve of mine that certain YouTubers and sites only seem to exist to find leaks for content that hasn't released yet.
Why would anyone dedicate themselves to the pursuit of taking an audience's excitement away from something that was building up and anticipated?
Just feels like they're kids who try and sneak up to the Christmas tree at 2 in the morning and peel back the wrapper because they can't stand to actually feel some emotion when it's an amazing gift. I made a point to stay away from all that, and the results shocked me every time. And if Nintendo can do that again, a lot of that percentage of fans who are content with simply backwards compatibility I talked about earlier, they will open their wallets and buy this new version if they can finally play as Doom Guy, or Crash Bandicoot, or Leon from Resident Evil 4, or whoever they could find the rights for. What's more, because the roster is already so expansive, Nintendo could really drag this out and take their time. With their average release schedule of one character every 3 months, they could easily make a DLC release schedule spanning from 2026 to 2030, effectively guaranteeing tons of income and interest for Smash Bros. Throughout the lifespan of whatever the name of their next Nintendo console is.
Now's a good time to ask you gamers, what fighters are on your personal Smash ballot? It's always fascinating to hear about characters that you never would have expected or maybe have forgotten about. So, let the community know why your most anticipated fighter should be in there. And please, please be more creative than Waluigi. Yes, we all get it. He's been given the shaft for 2 decades. I know.
To a lesser extent, this mantra of DLC avalanches applies to new stages as well. They could easily design another stage for each universe, given the decades worth of source material, from Mario to Metroid to Castlevania. I mean, come on, they can't possibly create a worse stage for Mario than the Abomination from the original. Why is the actual castle 2 miles down below? Why is it just teasing us into wanting to get closer to all that gorgeous scenery? Why is this building in the background? Do you recognize it from any Mario game? Why are there bridges that aren't even level, that are taken from a snow world in Mario 64, which lead to absolutely nowhere in any vertical or horizontal configuration?
You remember Mario Kart 8? Well, this was released 10 years ago!
And we just recently got more packs of tracks added if you are subscribed to the premium Nintendo Online service. There's almost 100 racing tracks now. That's how long and how much traction, pardon the pun, the Big N gets from its most successful games. Why would they worry about releasing Mario Kart 9 when this game just creates infinite money? It seems like the most obvious business decision in the world.
So, what's wrong with this approach? The most obvious thing is that we end up paying upwards of $90 for what is essentially the same game. Critics, both journalists and fans alike, will call foul on Nintendo for doing what they've already done so many times before.
We all remember Super Luigi U, 2 Donkey Kong Country games, and all the other Wii U games that were rather shamelessly, and for almost full price, dumped into Switch cases and the online store. Whatever characters, stages, or modes they do add will almost 100% be at additional expense for the consumer. And you can bet that'll be on top of a 6-year-old Switch game that, again, will still cost full price. Another less crucial, but more headache-inducing hurdle Nintendo would need to leap concerns the imploding amount of third-party licensing agreements that would need to be renewed. I'm sure Square, Konami, Rare, Namco, and everyone else didn't just give Nintendo access to their most iconic franchise characters out of the goodness of their hearts. And I'm sure the deals have expired. And it's not like Nintendo could just do this halfway either. For example, they couldn't just say, yeah, Cloud's in the game, Sephiroth and Sora, they were too expensive, so, whatever. No. If they're still labeling it as an Ultimate Smash, as they would, it would have to include everything, especially since the base Switch game without DLC included every character originally available from the Wii U game, along with some newcomers.
So Smash fans, I have two questions for you. Which approach are you most in favor of? And what approach do you think is most likely that Nintendo is going to take? Because the answers to those questions may very well be different.
If you're asking what my preference would be, I would like to go back to the basics and reboot Smash. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to suggest a completely new, nothing to do with the original concept experiment. For example, a fully 3D Smash. Though wow, what a fascinating topic that is. No, I'd spend my money knowing I'd be getting a brand new Smash game with different physics, new combos, more variety of special moves, mostly all new stages, and a distinct roster, largely devoid of clones or palette swaps. Together, they'd undertake a predictably wacky but entertaining 20-hour story mode, without all those repetitive spirit battles and useless upon useless shops, farming quests, and skill trees that plagued World of Light. Veterans would sport brand new moves that more effectively show off their eclectic talents. Third-party characters would still exist, maybe a couple in the base game, followed by 3 packs of characters over a 3-year release window, similar to how they kept the momentum going for Smash Ultimate. There's still a lot of hype for inclusions. People want Scorpion. People want Geno, and not just a Mii Fighter version. Phoenix Wright, Shantae, there are still many very vocal fan bases clamoring for their favorite characters' inclusion.
I'd love to hear what you think. And hey, if you're interested in a deep dive retrospective on the original game, please check it out right here at Gaming Introspection. It's time to get excited about Smash again, gamers, and it's always good to see ya. Enjoy the fall!
If only there were more like you, then perhaps the fall could have been prevented.
Not that fall. Holy crap. Any Persona fans out there? Take care of yourselves, gamers.